So this will pretty much be the last modding video for the TOTS mod. Pretty much after this, it'll just be installing the head back onto the body and everything. But this is the main one on installing the rig itself into the head. So I've got just kind of a dumbed up rig right now. It doesn't have everything on it. Well, actually it has most of it on it. But I just have the lid currently loose. So when you get the rigs, the lid and everything will be painted. So if you're wanting to protect that, you could probably put some tape or something on the inside right here just to protect the lid a little bit, because you're going to be resting that lid on this inside area to get it mounted correctly. So for this, the rig will come with two mounts that you'll probably end up having to sand them a little just for fitment. I make them slightly big because castings, they can be thick or thin depending on how it was casted. So with that, I've got like an 80 grit sandpaper, so it should sand through that pretty good. And then for attaching those in, I've tested hot glue and E6000, and for pre-attaching these, I'm just going to use the hot glue just to get it in place, because that will pull off pretty easy. And then once I've got them set with the hot glue really good, then I will just pound a bunch of E6000 on it. And this held it pretty good, so it should hold it in place, no problems for the mounts. I was afraid of using epoxy because I didn't know if it would melt this or not. So that's something, if you want to test on like the back when you cut it off, if you want to test some epoxy on it, see how it does or whatnot. But yeah, that's completely up to you. I'm going to go with some E6000 and then just hot glue for my pre. So to get started, you can either plug everything in with the battery and move the lid forward to where it's covering the eyes like that, or you can just unscrew and pull it completely forward like that. Either way works. I just don't have it connected to the remote or anything, so I'm just gonna go with this way. And so yeah, like I said, if you want to protect the lid from getting slightly scratched or something, you could put some tape around that ring where the eyes are, or plastic bag or something just to protect that. But yeah, this lid is unpainted, so I'm not too worried about that. So let me get, so I have a soft, so because I don't want to scratch the face up or anything, I'll just put it down on a shirt usually. And then the way this usually works, we're gonna bring this in just a little bit. Okay, so you'll have that lid down on those eyes like that, and it'll just rest on those holes that you'll have. And I usually angle the rig, so yeah, with having the eyelid loose like that, you can kind of move the rig up and down. I'm actually going to pull that out like that. That way I can go a little more forward. So these cables out of the way. So just getting that lid nice and set. Okay. So get a little light in here. So I try and angle the rig. And I mean, you may have to do this a couple times just so you can get the placement good. But I usually try to get the top of the rig about where that ear is, where that hole is on the ear. And then at that point is when you would drop your mounts in, and they should slide over on the side of the rig. So it'd sit in like that. Now I can see I'm gonna have to sand these just a little bit because they are a little tight in there. So and with this 80 grit, it should sand pretty quick. And I mean, another thing you could do is you may be able to even tape the mounts onto the rig, or temporarily just tape them on and slide it in. So that's one. I think I've tried it before. I'm just going to try and get some of these cables out of the way. It's like the worst part of doing this part is just all the cables are in the way. So let's get that lined back up here. And I almost, with my lid, I almost try to get the top pretty much level with the top of the eye hole. I mean, it all depends on how well your eye holes are cut. Like, this is literally the worst part of the mod. It's just getting this mounted in. So yeah, just going off of that, having the top of the rig pretty much where that hole's at, and then just slide these mounts in. And I know on this head, this side is tighter than this side for some reason. Okay. Yeah, so I gotta sand that a little more. Yeah, because what's happening is, because it's so tight, it's pushing the rig over to the side, which you don't want that, because then it'll be slightly off. So let's get that in there. And you're just going to constantly be eyeballing it, looking at how everything is sitting. See, and I think I still want to sand that a little more. And my left one, I've got oodles of room on that left side, but this right side, it's just a little thinner than that left. Back in there. Oh, that's getting there. Yeah, so I try and make sure that those are roughly in the same spot when I am placing them, so they are even. So let's get this back. Get back in there. We're just going to try getting... Okay. I think that one may be good now. Okay. So what I'm going to do is we're just going to come in here really quick. And we're just going to do a strip. And you want to be careful not to get the rig itself. They are a 3D printed part, so it will melt if it gets too hot. So try and keep the hot glue away from that. So if needed, you know, kind of cover it when you're doing it. Maybe, you know, just kind of let it ooze down. You know, keeping some distance. And the main thing is you don't want it, I mean, depending on how you've cut your head, you don't want it so low that you can't get the rig in and out, because the rig is supposed to be able to slide back out. That way you can finish doing everything, or if you ever need to swap a servo out or any of that. So it looks like it got a little off. This side went a little more forward than I wanted. So I'm just going to move him back a little bit. And then I can adjust. Yeah, this side may be needing a little more sanding. Just gonna let that sit for a second, let that cool. So, moment of truth is, yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, so that's one reason why you want the supports, the mounts kind of forward. That way you can slide everything out. But we're gonna just remove all that glue because that one did not work. So I'm going to sand this side a little more. Building up crap over here. try this again, see if I can get it a little better than last time. Yeah, because I want those mounts kind of forward, that way I can slide that out. Because that mount does literally slide on this whole section. So having them at least right there is like ideal, because then you only have to come out that much. Having it clear back here, you're hoping that you've cut this correct to be able to get it out. So yeah, at least having it halfway, so about an inch from the front, is ideal. So I'm just gonna throw that back in there. Get my angle going. We'll just throw this guy in. Or not. This mount I may have to thin down a lot. If I'm going to get it to where I want it. Yeah, so that top right there is pretty much at the top of the ear currently. We'll see what it's going to look like though. Just let that ooze in there. Got hot glue going everywhere. Yeah, and this, I mean, the hot glue alone, when I did my test, it stuck pretty good to it. So, just kind of get that a little straighter so it comes out nice. I mean, they're slightly off, but I think it'll still slide out pretty good. If I don't like it, just pull them off, do it again. Probably sand this one a little more. Yeah, let's do this. Bring this in a little more. Okay. Yeah, this glue is taking a little while because it was pretty thick. So let that cool really quick. Because then you can easily see if it's in the right placement once that's cooled, because you can just bring it back slightly, lift those lids up, and see how that looks. So this would be the upside of having it plugged into the power, because you could just back it off a little bit and then control the eyelid. So, but it looks like my left side is a little low, but then again, the mold for these were not perfect, so it does actually go higher quicker right here on this side compared to this side. So you may be able to, yeah, not really. Shadow kind of screws it up, but so see if I can find the eyelid. Yeah, okay. So, and I think we lined it. Yeah, it's not bad. It could go this way a little bit, I think. Because I do have a nice gap right here. I mean, this side's not as bad. And it may just be my cut job on the eye right there. So, I think I almost want to bring it over just a little bit. So I may pull this mount out. I could probably leave that one in. See, that slides right out. So I could probably pull this one, just sand it a little more. And see that glue just pops right off. So I'm going to sand this just a little more, probably another millimeter or two off of it. Just so I can get it to go probably a little further forward, and it'll help push that rig this way. I may have taken a bunch off right there, but I want to make sure I have enough room. So what we're going to do is just grab that, and then it'll just put it in pretty much where it was, because I do like the placement of this one. It's pretty much at that where I've almost got an inch left in front. Okay, so we'll just drop this guy in. Yeah, I may have to sand it even more because it's still pushing it. It's still wanting to push it. So, yeah, so I mean, this one I may end up sanding a shit ton off of it. And that's the reason I have them so big. So I used to have a bunch of different sizes that I would send, but like it was just a waste of material to me. So I just started doing one standard size, which was just the big size, and then everyone can just sand them down to the size that they need. So I have a belt sander at home, in the garage. This would make this a lot quicker. Okay, so let's get that back in its position. Oh, I want to see something. How? Okay, so I want to help support that just a little more. So just while I'm mocking this up, I'll just do a little right here. I'm just going to let that cool for a second, actually. Because see, what's going to happen is I'm going to have to pretty much inject this like underneath, get it supported, then rip the hot glue off once this is dry. So I think it's like a 24-hour dry time or something, but yeah, I'd end up filling the top section just so I got a nice bead of it around on the inside, everything holding it in place, because I wouldn't trust just staying with the hot glue. So okay, I don't think that's gonna move. So I'll just put this rig in. Get those eyelids lined back up. Okay. Just like so. And then we're just going to put that guy on. See, if I have it back here. Okay. So just making, so what I'm doing is I'm checking my gaps on the sides to try and get them as even as I can. So we're going to test it right there. So what we're going to do is just kind of drip that hot glue in on this side. Yeah, it makes it hard because I've got this servo right here. Yeah, this back servo does make it a little difficult because you don't want to burn the rig. So just let that dry. Yeah, I mean, you could spend a long time doing this part just because it's just getting those eyes and stuff perfectly placed. That's getting there. It's almost there. Still a little gooey though. I can still move it. I mean, even this side I can still move. Yeah, I think my eye over here, I kind of sanded it probably a little more when I was cutting. So it may be a little more open on the side, but I think other than that, it will still work nicely. Pull that out, and I'm just gonna hot glue the rest of the top of this side. And I'll just get the rest, a nice bead on there just to hold that really good. Yeah, on a so on a resin casted head, you can just use epoxy because it's literally the same stuff as this. So, and that's what I've done. Like my personal custom one is a resin casted. So, but on the TOTS, I'm not sure how the epoxy would work or what it would do to it, because this is just a kind of a hard, soft doll vinyl. Yeah, man, I'm hoping eventually to find a better system. I mean, I could probably have these like super thin to where they're only like that thick, and you just have them taped on and then just fill it with epoxy around it. I mean, that's an idea, but then you don't want a head where you've got frickin' half an inch or something of just straight epoxy and or whatnot. So and I just want those, that kind of moves, but yeah, so we'll do a test on this again. So just throw that back in there. And also when you're done, to hold it in place, I just do a dab of hot glue right on the back right here. So, but, yeah, so. Yeah, I think just it was my cut job on this side is throwing it off just a little bit. And with how this mold is for these heads, it does dive up quicker on that side. Oh, the lighting is just so hard. But yeah, I mean, if you have a TOTS, you could probably see it that this eye goes up quicker than this one. Where like this one's more kind of a round, and this one kind of just dives up. So, but let's test that. I didn't think I tightened his eyes, but apparently I did. And they are not straight, so let's. There we go. Yeah, I try to get these as straight as I can when I'm building them. So if they're ever a little off, it's pretty much a tie rod end, like on a car. You just twist that. But yeah, I will try and get them as close as I can, and then if they're slightly both off, or if the whole thing's like off like that, which it shouldn't be because I try and get that good. But yeah, just loosening that screw, tightening it back up, and that should straighten those eyes out to where we can slide that rig back in. And those that eyelid's way back in there. So you'd probably want it to where your eyelid, you've got a little showing. So, I mean, right now I'll test right here. So, when you're gluing this in, you don't want it right up on it because that will obviously scratch when it opens and closes. So you do want it set back a little bit. You could probably do a couple layers of tape or something to set it back. And you could probably even get some like I've got some double-sided tape right here actually. So yeah, that didn't work. But yeah, you probably want it at least, I don't know, 1/16 or 1/8 of an inch away from that. So yeah, so that's all the way forward right there. So you just set it back, maybe just so you can see a slight gap. That way those eyes can open and close with no issue. And to know if your rig is level, which I can see on this one, but then again I may have cut that higher. This lid's actually, I'm seeing more lid on this side. So I may have to raise that mount just a little bit. Yeah, because I don't want, because I don't want, I like where that eye is sitting. So it's above the head, the eye socket right there. But this one looks a little low. Yeah, because you can see when that's opening. I've got a slit. Well, it's a little hard to see, but yeah, I already got a nice big slit right here compared to over here. So this mount, I think, needs to come up. So, one thing you can do, all my glue stayed, so I'm just going to mark so I got a line where that was. So I just want to make sure that that is probably slightly above that. I think one thing we could do, you may be able to do it with, so let's throw this mount back on there. Nope, stay. So close that lid. So just having that lid slightly opening about right there. And if I can find my mount that I dropped. If that wants to go on, which it doesn't. Okay. So in it, the lighting in here is just horrible. But I can see that line. So I just want to make sure my rig, so lined it up with that original line. We're just going to bring it up a little bit. And then we will glue it in place right there. Maybe, if it'll stay. Worst part ever. Okay. So I can see that original line. So we're just gonna bring it up just like that, holding it in place. And we're just gonna drip some hot glue down just to get that mount somewhat secured right there. No, you want to stay. Yeah, I wish my lighting in here was a little better. Do, 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 do. Yeah, I got like oodles of room on this side, but this side, man, it just, his head is all scawampied. It looks like it may bow out more on this side compared to this side. And that just comes down to the original mold of the head. Like, it's just, I mean, they're sculpted with clay, so you know, trying to get it perfect. I mean, no head is perfect, so. Okay, so we're just going to slide this out because I think that should be somewhat good in there. Okay. And I'm just going to put some glue on this front side just so it holds a little better. Yeah, this mount is pretty good. I do like the placement of it, so. But yeah, I think because the eyes are just so hard to get perfect. So, yeah, I mean, they're going to be off no matter how good you are at cutting them because it's not something that you can add new material to. So like I've said in my other videos, when cutting those out, the eyes out, take your time. Do not rush it. To smooth this out, I actually started using like a high grit sandpaper. I covered all the freckles with some vinyl tape. Same with that lashes, brows, and just kind of worked all of that to smooth it all out, make it all nice. So, just a little wet, but the rest of it is dry, so we can throw this back in. Let's see what that looks like. Ooh. That's a lot closer to what we're wanting. Yeah, I just don't think my only option would be sanding some of the vinyl down on this side, I think, which I don't want to do that really. Yeah, because those eyelids, they look really good. Like they're super close. I mean, when they're up, I mean, they're nice. So, and that placement on them is good. It looks even. I mean, it just comes down to this one side being slightly higher, but yeah, I think that right there is just what it's going to have to be. Because my only option would be scraping some of that away. And doing that, you can only take out so much. And I don't think it would be worth it. Yeah, because if I angle it anymore, because I think I've got it slightly angled in there just for it to work, but yeah, so as you can see, if I can get some good light on this right there, we'll zoom in just a little bit. So I've got this rig lined up with pretty much the top of the ears. So, yeah, the top of the rig is literally pretty much the top of the ear. So just so pretty much straight line across, go right there. So that's probably the best alignment that I could probably give for you to shoot for when you're doing when you're gluing this in. Yeah, like that's probably be the best bet on that. And then, I mean, if your head's similar to mine, you'll probably have to sand this right mount a bunch just to get it to fit good. And this mount, it is angling slightly down. So I think angling that up. Yeah, I just don't think I'll be able to fix that eye. Yeah, so like I said, once you've got those in place, we're just gonna kink that back a bit. And then you just take a dab of glue. And you could probably do it on both sides. How? And just making sure it's like maybe a millimeter, 16th or whatnot away from the front. Doing this video. Okay, so that's, I think this one side's, yeah, that side's done. This side's all gooey. So, yeah, that didn't hold. That did not attach to the rig itself. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to, so for getting that distance in front of the rig, I think I'm just going to do a couple layers of tape. So let's do 1, 2, 3. I'm just using a vinyl tape. You could probably use masking tape. See if this works. I'm doing 3 pieces. So what I'll do is throw that in there. Okay, and that's just resting on those pieces of tape on the bottom. Okay, and then we'll just glue glue that in place a little bit. And you could probably try and get it all around it, you know, kind of drip it down onto the rig. Just on these back sides. I mean, you could do a line, I guess, on the top if you really wanted to. I think on mine, I literally just did it on the back, if I remember right. It's been a while. But yeah, because you don't want to use a glue that's going to hold it forever, just in case you have to replace a servo or something, because servos do go out if you are abusing them or using them consistently. I mean, these rigs are designed pretty much for a display piece, you know. Someone comes over, you show them, you know, it moves and everything, and then you put it back. It's not something that you're constantly carrying around and playing around with, you know, making the eyes go crazy all the time. So, yeah, I mean, they're not a toy. They essentially a collector's thing. So, just give that a little tug. Okay. So, yeah. Some small pliers. Yeah, that side did not hold. This one side did, but this side didn't. So we'll just... I didn't really have it on the rig itself all that much, so... We'll get a little onto that top side. I mean, I'm going to be pulling this off anyways, but I want to show pretty much how that's going to be held in, because I'm not really going to go over the E6000 too much. Probably I'll show, you know, getting that bottom side, and then, you know, once that dries, you literally rip off the hot glue, do the top side, and whatnot, just getting it as good as you can. So, I mean, you could probably almost use some super glue on this back side, probably just some like gel style. But yeah, the hot glue should work, especially if you was to do a bead across the top. Establishing shot. Okay, come on. This side just does not want to stick. May have dust or something on it. Do a big glob on it. Make sure that really attaches this time. Yeah, I talked with someone about trying to set some kind of set screw, which is what I really need to design to hold it in place, but you don't know where that's going to sit. So ideally what I'd have to do is pretty much have a pocket on the rig, a hole that goes along its edge, and then the mount would probably have to have a bolt to where once that's slid in, you can just tighten that or something. But until I figure out a different mounting, this is what I'm stuck with. Okay, so that should be good this time. So let's remove the tape. That just shoved that back, didn't it? Huh? It appeared that way, but yeah, that did. That one moved back. But I still got that distance. So I'm just gonna put some hot glue on that. So it is still, I still got that nice, like 3 layers of tape distance. So, to where those can go up and down and not hit. I mean, you can see just that slight slit. Okay. So, as for mounting, I wish that would dry a little quicker. But as for mounting everything else in the head, because the other things that are going to be in the head, you're going to have the voice box, you're going to have the battery pack, voice box, battery pack. I've actually upgraded these slightly to where there is a switch now. But there's a power switch on the battery pack, so you don't have to open the head every time to switch everything on. And then the voice box itself runs off of the little like watch batteries. So you can pretty much leave that on at all times. Like, I mean, those watch batteries can go a long time. Okay, so doesn't that look nice? So, yeah. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So, I have mine somewhere. But, yeah, so yes, I used to, most of my rigs you had to open the head, plug the battery pack in, but now I'm doing these power switches, which I haven't figured that out yet. It's probably something you could glue in at the back of the neck, so pretty much drill a hole, glue that in. And you could probably actually use the E6000 to glue that in place also. That's up to you. But as for the voice box, it is... So, I've actually modified these. So they normally come with like a massive battery pack on them, and this one I've actually cut that off and replaced it with the watch batteries. so I had to resolder that on. So that'll be a lot nicer. These are very, 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 very fragile, the wiring. So do be careful with these. But yeah, a cable would be attached to this that goes into the servo receiver, the radio receiver. So, and essentially this would all just be mounted to the back of the head, which I'm still, I think I'm just going to zip tie it again. Just do 2 zip ties. And then the wig, I'll probably just Velcro or double-sided tape. Most likely Velcro. But, yeah. But yeah, that's going over the mounting of the eyes. So, yeah. So yeah, just be careful when you're installing it. Like I said, the lids will come pre-painted unless you say otherwise. So, but yeah, going over that again, just making sure that rig is pretty much level with the top of the ear. And the ears are pretty close. I think this side's obviously more close to this, and this side is kind of close to this side. The ears are a little off, but yeah, I think that's it on that. And then, you know, putting those 3 pieces of tape at the bottom to push the rig back when you're mounting that in, just so you have that gap so it doesn't scratch or anything. Okay. And then you'd want to make sure all your wires are free though. And then also that's what fell off right there. I'll have to find that nut right there. Yeah, so yeah, so you're probably best, I mean, if you're doing it plugged in, it kind of sucks because then you're fiddling with the battery pack and everything. So having it just loosened off of the servo is a little nicer. You just gotta make sure that you can get the bar back through the Easy Link and then tighten it back down. So that would be the downside of doing it that way versus using the remote to adjust the eyelid into that closed position. So yeah, but that will pretty much conclude this video. So for doing the epoxy, or the E6000 I mean, pretty much remove the glue that was holding the rig. If I can get it. Being careful not to pull your mounts. Okay. Slide that rig out. Okay. And then you probably wouldn't have your neck on, but because I got a cable. But yeah, you just take the E6000 and just start filling in the gaps. And you could probably, you know, just be careful. Do it with a get a popsicle stick or something. Really push it down in there. That way you can get the angle, or put a glove on and just push it down with your fingers, just getting all around. And that would be the upside of also, you know, sanding these pretty good where you have a gap. I mean, you could almost probably E6000 that backside of the mounts prior to hot gluing them, and that would actually give it a little more support because this stuff's going to take a while to dry up. So you could almost, you know, be ahead already doing it that way. So, but yeah, this thing's almost done, and then he will go up for sale.